Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our little webinar. Thank you so much for joining us to hear about our top 5 reasons to study abroad in France. My name is Matt Galizia, and I'm an associate director here at ISA. I've worked for ISA now for like 7 to 8 years, something like that. I was actually an ISA Paris alum. I studied abroad in Paris in 2009, which like really ages me. That's like, I don't even know, like 13 years ago, something like that. But I loved my experience so much that I wanted to make it my full-time career, and I'm so happy to be here at ISA now. And I have with me today an ISA Paris alumni who I actually helped go to Paris back in the day, not really that long ago. And he's here to share all the wonderful things about life in France. Hi,
Thank,
Joshua.
thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'm Joshua. I studied abroad last spring, so 2021. And I don't know, I chose Paris because I don't know, it's Paris. And my minor is French. And so I just really wanted to learn more about the culture and the language. So it really has like a special place and it's a great experience. So, yeah. Okay, and then so let's start it off with a touch of everything. So there's I studied abroad in Paris. It was a great program, but it's not just Paris, it's France. And so there was a lot of great places. Like if you go down south, you can see Marseille, Lyon, Bordeaux, great cities. For me, I went to Colmar, which is on the eastern region. It's in the Alsace region, so right on the border with Germany and Switzerland. And it was a great little towns full of like little shops, cafes, and you get the mountains right there, so you can go skiing or you can go hiking. There's so many ruins there that you can just go hike. So for me that was great. And then I also went to the western side on the English Channel to Le Havre, which is like this little port city, which is beautiful. The president's beach house is actually there, so we got to see that. So it was a great experience. I don't know if Matt, you went on any trips or excursions with them.
Yeah, I did. And you like naming off all of those southern cities, like I've been to France like 6 times, but I've never been to the south. And I feel like I'm like meant to live there forever. And I think at like the start of the pandemic, I was like, maybe I'll just move to Marseille and just like work remotely forever and just live in a little apartment there or something. But it didn't work out. I'm still here in Austin, Texas. Things are still good. But I did visit a few of those places that you mentioned. Um, France is really easy to get around. Like you can get really easily to anywhere in France using the train, and it's a little bit like daunting or intimidating your first time like using the train, but after you've done it once, it's like the easiest thing to just like hop on and off, and in a couple hours you're in a totally different place. When I went to Paris with ISA, we did an excursion to Normandy that was really cool. So we saw a lot of, we saw like the D-Day beaches, and we saw Mont Saint-Michel, and the Paris staff took us to a biscuiterie, like, so that's literally like a biscuit making place, like a cookie baking like facility. And we got to do like a cookie tasting, and that was like a really cool experience. For someone who loves, like, who has like a major sweet tooth, France is the place for you, for sure. All right, so number 4, you can't really talk about Paris or France without talking about the art, the fashion, the cinema. These are all a huge part of French culture, and France has basically been like setting the like setting the tone, setting the world stage for all of those elements of culture throughout history. Um, One experience that I had in Paris that I really loved was going to literally just like a French movie theater. The French love the cinema. They like love going to films, and they love, I think more than like going to the films, they love like just discussion. Like discussion about like the plot and the, what what happened in the film that like went unsaid, or like what were the themes, and they just love like dissecting things and kind of being cerebral in that way. And so I went to a French cinema and I saw a movie called J'ai tué ma mère, which literally means I killed my mother, which sounds kind of graphic. But it's really like about this guy who like he like tells everyone that his mom is not alive, but she actually like completely is. And over the course of the film, you realize that their like weird relationship and why he lies in that way, and very like interesting and artistic film. But what about you, Joshua? What was like your favorite thing in Paris related to these things?
Yeah. So I was the COVID child, I guess you can say. So I was the first semester that they sent people abroad after COVID really began. And so cinemas were still closed, but even they would always talk about it. Like I said, with the host family, my host dad loved the cinema. He would like the atmosphere, just going and watching movies, sitting down. It was just such like a French thing that I wish I could have experienced. But for me, the museums were amazing. Just being able to like go, like one, there's old churches that are older than the United States itself, all around Paris, and you can just walk in and just walk around. It's amazing. And then I got to go to Versailles and the Louvre, and they were just like the size of these buildings. To think that they were old castles in the first place, and then just to like walk around and see the culture, the architecture of the buildings. Like that's the whole reason like France is known is for its architecture, its culture, and then the fashion. You cannot walk the streets of Paris in sweatpants. It's just they are always dressed to their finest, and if like I was dressed regularly like in a sweatshirt, they would give me the dirtiest looks because it's just Paris and you have to be dressed appropriately. You got to have what's new. But yeah, it's all just an amazing experience.
That's a great point. I think even during COVID, like we all wear sweatpants at home when you're in like Zoom calls like this, but I doubt the French do. Like
Oh yeah, no.
it's part of their, yeah.
But that does lead us into our third point, which is the food. I think every time I even left my host house, I was always stopping at a boulangerie for like a fresh baguette. And I was always eating it on the street. That was like the most French that I could ever get, is just walking down the street and eating the baguette right out of the little bag that they give you. And then just trying different foods at every patisserie, boulangerie, charcuterie, like everything you see, it was just amazing. Like every single thing that I ate, I was amazed by. Like I am not a fan of, like slimy, snaily food, and yet escargot was, they just make it in a way that it's like it's delicious. They make everything amazing. And I think my favorite food was probably dessert, I should say, that is a chasseur de pomme, which is basically just an apple turnover, but it's better because it's French. But my favorite meal is I actually went to this one restaurant with a bunch of the people in my program, and it was bouffe de bourgogne, and it was kind of like a beef stew but marinated in like red wine. Oh, it was so good, and I want to go back just for the food. But do you have a favorite food that you like in France, Matt?
Um, I do. Um, I love baked goods so much, and France is the best place to go if you have, like I kind of mentioned earlier, like a major sweet tooth.
Mhm.
Literally, like I actually worked in our Paris office in 2017 for a month, and my colleagues there would make fun of me every day because at lunch you could get what's called a formule, um, which means formula in English for all of you non-French French speakers, you could probably guess. But with the formule, literally for like €8, you could get like a beverage, a beautifully made sandwich, and then like a full-size dessert. And every single day for 30 days, I got like a really fancy dessert. And the Paris staff would make fun of me, but you walk so much that like it doesn't matter. You can eat dessert every day and it's fine. But I like to ask locals what to get whenever I go to like a restaurant or a bakery or whatever it is. And so I would always ask like the bakery what dessert they would recommend. And they literally, no matter which bakery I went to, they would recommend the Paris-Brest, which is like a choux pastry that has like a praline cream in it. And it's probably just like the most French like dessert you could ever get. And that's why they would recommend it, because it's just very like traditional. And it was made for the Tour de France, I think, where you go from Paris to Brest. I could have that totally wrong. It's some kind of bike, definitely some kind of bike, like cycling event. And it
It
actually
sounds
kind of looks,
good.
yeah, you'll have to try it next time you go. It literally looks like a bicycle tire too. Like it's like it's typically like a circular shape, to kind of like replicate that like bicycle feature, which is cool. So that's my fave. All right. Um, so our next little point here, something that we love about France is that the French have joie de vivre. It's really not like a cliche, it's very true. The French just really know how to live life and to appreciate life and to really like enjoy the day to day, where I think in the US sometimes we can like have like a stressful work week and just try to get through the week so that we can enjoy the weekend. The French are very different. They want to enjoy every day of their life, and they're going to find ways to like make it very enjoyable. So my favorite thing that they do, or that they have in Paris, are the open terraces that I think all of us, you know, have in our mind's eye when we're thinking of life in France. There's like 9,000 open terraces in Paris, something like that. And at any given point throughout the day, you can see French people out on those like open air terraces, just like looking out on the street, having a coffee, having like a cocktail or an apéro, something like that. And it just feels like very lively and very joyful. Like whenever I'm like walking by those open terraces, I'm like, this is life. Like life is happening right now, you know? So I really appreciate that. But what about you, Joshua? What do you have for this one?
Yeah, I love their lifestyle. I mean, most French, companies, workers, they have a relaxed day. They don't start until like 8 or 9, which sounds like, oh, that's kind of early. But compared to the United States, where we're 6, 7 o'clock, we're go, go, go. The French are like, no, we're gonna sleep in. We're gonna have our, nice their breakfast, which is the petit déjeuner, which is like a croissant or something. But then you go to work, and then you have like an hour 2 hour lunch where it's just like you're sitting relaxing on the terraces. And then after, you do the same thing. You go home, you make this big dinner, and then you just relax. But I loved just walking this city and just kind of like experiencing everything is so relaxed. It's not like New York City or like LA where everything's go go go. It's kind of like, let's just go with the flow. Like we don't have to, we're not in a hurry anywhere. If we see something we like, we're gonna stop there, sit there. But the terraces, one day I think I went to the terrace and I sat there for 4 hours, just people
Yeah.
watching, because it's just an amazing time to just sit down, relax, eat a salad or a croissant and just like chill. Cafe show, oh, so good. But their life is just more enjoyable than, the fast pacedness of the United States.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, you can like people watch and like look at all of their fashions and stuff, and like everyone looks so put together.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So then that leads us to number 1. So Paris is a huge city, I guess you can say. It's not like New York where everything's like concrete jungle, where it's just like a super tall skyscraper. I think I don't remember what the building is called, but they have one like skyscraper in like the old city of Paris. And after that, the French were like, no way, we want a cap on all our buildings so that people can see and look at this beautiful city. And so that's when they moved all the skyscrapers to La Défense. But the old city is just so amazing. And I walked everywhere because you can. And just walking down, like you'll walk down this random street, you'll turn left, and then it's like a building that is just built with like complete cobblestone. It's older than most of the countries in the world, and it's just this beautiful piece of architecture, and it's just a house. Like it's just someone's house. So just walking there, walking through the churches. I lived in the Bastille, which is the 11th arrondissement. So like every day I would walk along the canal and then just walk along the Seine where, you know, you pass the Notre Dame, the Tuileries, the Louvre, and then the Concorde. Like you just walk in, there's just so many buildings, monuments, churches, historical things that it's just like, this is a regular day for every French person. And so doing that, that was my favorite part of being in France, because I like have an interest in architecture and love
Mhm.
the history of each building. And it's just a building to them. So I thought it was amazing. So I don't
That's
know, Matt.
awesome. Um, I was thinking that it took me a little bit, but that building you were talking about, it's like a big, like black, ugly
Yeah,
skyscraper, and it's called the Tour Montparnasse.
yeah,
Um, and the French Parisians hate it. It's like a blight on their city. But I have heard that it's like the best place to get a photo from, like to
yeah,
just go up to the top of the Tour Montparnasse, because then your photos won't have that building in it because you're inside of the building. So that's like a way to get around it.
yeah,
Um, so pro tip for anyone going to France, just go up the Tour Montparnasse and then you won't see it like that ugly building in the middle of the city in your photos. Um, one thing that I really like about like the walkability of Paris is the French like love their gardens. Like there are a million gardens. Don't quote me on that. There's not truly a million of them. Um, but there are a ton of gardens throughout the city. And you can literally just like pop in and out of them or like, you know, walk between them to get wherever you need to go. And on my last trip there, I discovered the Promenade Plantée, which actually is like it was in your neighborhood, Joshua. And it
really.
like starts in the Bastille. It's kind of like the High Line in New York,
Okay.
where like it used to be a train station, and it was kind of like ugly and decrepit train station. And the French actually like turned it into this beautiful like walking promenade like above the city, like you ascend this like staircase and then you're like up above the city just walking like at least a mile or two, and that whole walk is just covered in gardens and like you're on the rooftops of Paris and it's like really pretty. So that's one of my favorite like
Yeah,
walks.
they definitely love their gardens. I feel like there is always a garden every which way you turned. And I know the mayor of Paris has started like this thing. It's like the Green City Initiative. And so they're kind of like
Right.
redoing roads. So there's more trees lined, there's more space for people to walk and kind of just stroll instead of, you know, all the cars driving by. So it's actually really great for gardens and just kind of walking.
Yes. Yeah. Like if you could imagine it, Paris is becoming even more beautiful because of that. So that's a good point. Well, those are our top five things that we had for you guys today. But Joshua, while we had you here, I did want to ask you just some like kind of logistical, like what more about your like day-to-day life while you were in Paris. Um, what was it like navigating the city and like especially going to and from class from your host family?
So I think this is the most easily accessible city that I've ever been to. I've been to like New York City, LA, Chicago, DC. Their metros are all so bad. Whereas when you go to Paris, it's so simple. You know, I had a Navigo pass, but I mean you can just buy a
Mm.
ticket like right there. It's like €2. You scan it, go in, easiest thing. They have a map, get on the train, you go wherever you want, and then you get off, scan it again, and it's the so nice because it's just a complete difference from United States transportation system. So I loved doing that, and every day. So I was in the 11th arrondissement, which was the Bastille, and then I think my school was in like the 20th arrondissement, so it was just north. But I had to like get on it one train, then transfer to the other, and then go, and then wherever the train stop was, I had to walk like 2 blocks to the class. It was the easiest walk of my life, and I loved going and taking the metro every day because it was just so nice, clean, safe, and reliable. And so I think one train comes around every 3 or 4 minutes. So going from home to school to home, or the school to another part of the city was so easy, and it was really nice.
Great. Yeah, that's good to know. That literally is probably like the number one concern that students and parents reach out to me about is like the commute and the like getting around the city. Like it's that one thing that scares you the most when you first like kind of the unknown before you get
Yeah.
there. But then like you're saying, like once you've done it, like once or twice, it's like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, you get
I'm a
used to it
pro.
really fast. And I think my commute was like 15 minutes versus like an hour walk. So it was really nice.
Yeah, convenient. And then what about your host family? Did you have like a great experience with them? What were they like?
Yeah, so I stayed with a host family and it wasn't per se a family, but it was just an older gentleman, super nice. He would cook us dinner all the time. And what I loved about my host dad is like every night he would sit there, talk about his day, ask us about our day, and then we would just have conversations about everything. And he would always like make us dinner, and then for dessert he would always have our cheese and baguettes. And I was like, this is the most French you can get. So it was great. My the first week that I was there, my host dad actually like took us all around the city and he showed us like where to go personally, which metro stops to get on. So he was super helpful and kind. And I loved being with the host family and being able to speak French and English because he spoke both. So it was really nice.
Yeah, that's so great. That like literally I read the like comments that students give us after they come back from their trips, and literally every student is like, my French host family cooked like the most amazing elaborate meals every night. Like I don't know how the French do it. And like literally every French person knows how to cook like very well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool that you had that experience. And like I think you probably learned more French and like French culture and language having that host family experience than you probably even learned like in the classroom, right?
Yeah, definitely being immersed into like a French speaking household definitely gets your French linguistics up and you learn a lot more than you ever would in an American classroom. So, and when I first decided to do a host family, I was a little hesitant because I was like,
Yeah.
the new person, it's a new city, it's even a new country. Like, I don't know if this is gonna be weird or not. And it was an amazing time, and they're always so helpful and kind and opening. So, very hospitable.
All right. Well, that is all that we have. Joshua, it's been so great to like actually meet you in person. Like me
Yeah.
and we talked and emailed and stuff like pre-departure and all of that. Not too long ago, but yeah, it's been cool getting to like chat with you and hear more about your experience. Um, and for those of you on the call, if you'd like to connect with an alumni just like Joshua, we'll put a link in the chat so you can complete that, and we'll pair you up with an alumni to chat with. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and feel free to email info@studiesabroad.com if you have any questions.